Who wants their eggs with a side of Carnage? Here's your look at the new Beast Kingdom EAA-143SP, Absolute Carnage. The EAA Egg Attack Action brand of highly stylized and articulable action figures from Beast Kingdom take on the crazed villain from outer space in a limited edition release. Using the very best in manufacturing techniques, Carnage is brought to life with immense attention to detail. A translucent body showcases the otherworldly visage of an angry alien with light-up function in the Carnage head sculpt to really showcase his demonic look. Also included are a host of weapon accessories for the ultimate in battle-ready posing. For fans of arguably the most dangerous villain in the Spider-Verse, the Carnage EAA Special Edition release of only 1,500 figures is not one to be missed. Before we get a closer look at Absolute Carnage, let me first thank, if I can, the folks over at Beast Kingdom that kindly provided this sample of the Egg Attack Action EAA-143SP Carnage that we can have a look at in this review. If you would like to get Carnage for your collection, I'll put the link down below in the video description. Grab yours now, because it is of limited quantities. Moving on then to the accessories that come included with the figure. When we first have a look at some instructions, then we'll move our attention over to a display stand. Starting first, though, Instruction Town. Instructions, you'll get yourself a single sheet, double-sided, and while one side may not be words that you'll be able to understand, certainly on the other side there is English. Shows you how to swap out the parts for his arms, shows you how to also change out the eyes, turn on the lights. Yes, there are lights also built into Carnage, also on his backpack. And again, the exact same thing is on the other side as well. It's always a good idea, I feel, to go through the instructions before you start handling the figures like this, especially when they have a lot of intricate features and accessories. Then, moving our attention over to the display stand, if you have seen reviews on this channel, certainly at Beast Kingdom, then you may recognize, yes, at least the shape of this display stand, not necessarily this candy red coloring that they've used. It is the same type of stand that we've just also recently looked at with the Dynamic Action Hero line. In this case, though, you've got the logo there on the top. That will be the familiar logo that's going to be on his forehead. And then on the front of that, you've also got Absolute Carnage. A regular display stand, the same stand that we've gotten before. It does have the adjustable neck along the top, and this can clip around his waist. I would certainly suggest, for at least the Egg Attack Action figure line, probably use the display stands, especially when it comes to a character like Carnage, because he's got such a large melon up top. It does put a lot of additional weight on his legs, and if you do want to have the figure standing stable without having the risk of it falling over, I would really encourage the idea of using a display stand. It's included with the figure after all. A lot of cool stuff to cover off here for Carnage. He does come with a lot of melee weapons. He comes with different interchangeable eyes, and even comes with things that you can attach onto his body. Why don't we start first with the ladder? We're going to go ahead and have a look at. He comes with a couple of these just symbiote kind of parts that go onto this forearm. Now, these were already on the figure when I took them out of the packaging, but I did want to take the time to take them off first to show you what they look like. And then from there, I'll just show you what they go on to the figure looking like. They are made of using softer plastic, translucent, sort of ruby red plastic. And again, like these will fit over top of his arm. Simply just grab the figure. First, remove his hands from the sockets. And once that's removed, go ahead and just slide on the forearm. I prefer to call him symbiote myself, but I know certainly in the Carnage movie they started calling it symbiote. I don't know why they started calling it. I prefer myself symbiote. How would you like to pronounce it? Let me know down below in the comment section. In the meantime, though, I'm going to take these attachments, slide them up onto his forearms, and then go ahead and replace the hands so that those aren't going to be falling off. So he has those. That already adds a little bit of extra pizzazz to the figure. He does also have on the back of his torso a couple little hole points here that he does come included with these very large bulbous parts of his symbiote costume. And those can plug either on the top, you can plug them into the bottom. I guess really you could also alternate them as well. Before I actually do this, and again, look at the candy color red that they've used for the plastic. I really love the color. But you can actually light up his torso. You can actually light up his torso and his forehead to access the battery compartment for his torso. Before I start putting anything plugged in, let's actually remove this first, like that. You'll be happy to know that the batteries were already assembled, so those are already in there. 1.5 volt button cell batteries are already installed. You just have to unscrew that if you wanted to access those. But to turn it on, You can see it illuminates the back as well as it illuminates the front. Now, I wouldn't necessarily display him with the lights on all the time, but it certainly does add a little bit of extra appeal to the figure, especially if you got the lights cut out. I mean, again, I really like the way that that illuminates. And making use of translucent red plastic like this, it really does give the opportunity for those lights to kind of peer their way through. And also, as a result, I mean, it lights up his tongue just a little bit. I think it's just because of the light that's coming out from his torso. Now, there's that. There is also one in his head. Now, the head's a little bit more difficult to gain access to. In fact, it's easier if you just remove the torso, or not the torso, the jaw. Just remove it from the sides like that. And then from there, the battery compartment is located inside. You can see it right there. It is very hard, in fact, to reach it. If it helps at all, you can actually take yourself a little screwdriver, just enough to gain access to the switch. You can switch that on. And again, that illuminates both the top of his head, pulsating here, and it also illuminates his torso. I really love the way that that looked. Now, again, I probably will not do it for the course of this entire review, simply just because, again, that the batteries are probably going to be draining by the time I get to the end of the review. But let's go ahead and just, at least for the very least, get his jaw back into place. And again, we just snap it on either side. His eyes will pop out, because those are things also that you can change on the figure. But let's just get them both, at least his jaw, properly in place. And yeah, doesn't that look really cool, the way that they've got that illuminating like this? We're going to spend a few little moments, just a few seconds actually, just looking at that so you can actually see what it looks like. And we'll spin it around from the back. I mean, how brightly does it actually illuminate the back of his head as well as, again, the back of his torso? I wish there was a simpler way to gain access at least to his head. The torso isn't so much the issue, because really all you're doing is just popping off the back plate here to gain access to the batteries. The head, you just have to get a little more access to it. You have to kind of remove the jaw. The tongue I've already attached anyways. And even then, once you've removed it, it's a little harder to gain access to it. I would, again, probably recommend maybe using a screwdriver to actually hit the switch on the inside of his jaw. Speaking of his jaw, by the way, I've already taken the liberty of adding the tongue. The tongue wasn't part of the figure when you first take him out of the box. I've added the tongue. The tongue does have some posability, but if you don't prefer to have the tongue in his mouth, you don't have to. You can leave it off completely. To do that, we're going to go ahead once again, remove the jaw. We'll put the figure down just for 1 second. Get him to stand. Like, again, he has a little more top heaviness simply just because his head sculpt is so big. While he's resting there for a second, I want to show you like the tongue. The tongue is attached to a ball joint. And when you do get this first out of the packaging, the tongue isn't there. I had to add it after the fact, but it does give you a little bit of additional posability. But if you prefer to have your Carnage without the tongue, easily just remove it altogether. And then go from there and just reattach it. You're going to attach it. There's holes on either side of the top of his jaw, and there's pegs, of course, located on the bottom of his jaw. And again, we'll just swing this around and attach it on both sides. For me, at least, when it comes to displaying him, I kind of like the idea of displaying him without the tongue. It allows, first of all, for his head to be a little more closed shut. I think it gives him a much more sleeker looking look. Again, if you wanted to, you could add the tongue. I'm kind of more leaning to the idea of leaving it out completely. But I did say I was actually going to take these parts and attach them to his back. So again, going back to that, a couple of holes top and a couple of holes bottom. I'm going to go with the top for these, and these just simply plug into place. If it helps at all, you can also rotate them as you're applying a little bit of pressure. That may help to navigate them into those holes. And again, you can do it on both sides. There doesn't seem to be anything else that he comes included with that would then go into these bottom holes. So again, if you wanted to, I guess the whole reasoning why those 4 holes are there and not just the 2 is for you to decide whether you want to have them on the top or if you want to have them on the bottom. But if you spin it around, it does give him a little bit of extra fullness on the back of his torso. From there, we can have a look at the rest of the accessories that come included with the figure. Now, he does have, currently right now, more open eyes. The figure also comes included with more slotted eyes, more sinister looking eyes. You can see the difference between the two. Eyes are super easy to remove. You're just going to grab them from one side at least. They are attached via magnets, but not too strong of a magnet where you have to fight to try to get them out of the sockets. Then from there, you're going to go ahead and take the appropriate eye that you want to go with. I'll keep one changed, and I'll keep the other one the way it was before, so you can see the difference between the two. You can also really keep one of each, so it does give him kind of that look that he's winking at you. That looks slightly creepy. Kind of even really like the idea of having him with one eye slightly closed and one eye open like this. But the eyes themselves, one thing just to show you, is that the eyes are also sunken in like this. You see how they're not just painted on the surface like this. They actually have contoured in the white parts of the eyes and left the black outlining something that sticks out a little bit further on the face. I really like the way they've done that. All the rest of Carnage's accessories are hand-related, or things at least that can swap out for a hand. We'll start with these ones first. As you can see, they have protruding blades that stick out from the tops of the hands. And again, like his body, they're using translucent red, although it's a little bit more of a darker red, as it seems like they've brushed some additional black onto the individual digits. I kind of like the look of these hands, but I think I like the next hands just a little bit more. The figure also comes included with these very long, needle-shaped fingers. They almost look like branches, the way that they're extending out from the fingers. And again, really nice use of using the darker red for the parts that can attach to the wrist and getting more progressively black as they've painted each of the individual fingers. Those look so super sinister. And by the way, again, if you wanted to change out the hands, just simply grab the figure once again. Although this time, while you are holding on, hold on to this part because you don't want that falling off the forearm. Simply just swivel the hands once again off the pegs and replace them with the hands that you want to use instead. I'm going to use this just certainly as a temporary fix because there's other things that I'm definitely going to want to display with the figure. But again, that just shows you what one looks like, and we'll keep it with the regular stock, regular hands so you can see the difference between the two. The other things are more so weapons. Of course, it's going to be a character like Carnage. You'd like to think at least he's going to have all these extra sharp weapons that he's going to come included with. Just get him to stand a little bit. Again, because he's got a larger head like this, the figure is going to have, and I notice like his legs are a little on the loose side. So certainly when it comes to displaying this guy on the shelf, I'm going to go the route of using that display stand that we talked about earlier. But moving then on to the weapons he comes included with. Carnage comes with these big, giant axe head blades. And again, the use of that translucent red, really effectively done by Beast Kingdom. First of all, I love the texturing that they've gone with. And then second of all, the transition of the translucent red, which again, my hands are running behind it right now, and the way it goes very much to a dark, charred look on the edges. It comes with two variations of that. And then he also comes included with just a regular blade. I say regular like I'm downplaying how dangerous that blade would be. And again, it's using both that red and that black. Boy, does it ever look sharp. Oh, I see what I did there. To change those out, all you're going to do once again is pick up the figure. We keep going back to the same core idea, but basically just removing the hand from the socket. And let's find a good dangerous weapon to give him. This again just attaches onto the peg. Now, if you find at all like the peg isn't accessible enough, simply just take this part. You can even just remove it altogether as well if you wanted to, but just slide it up as far as you can get it. And then just have that plugged in place. You know, in fact, I might actually just take this off just for at least the time being. That way I don't have to fight with this for the purpose of this review, of course. And then we're going to go ahead and just hold on to the forearm. And then we're just going to wiggle the blade weapon in place. Now, you may find as well that you're noticing that the bowl peg seems to shift around a little bit. That's common. But again, just wiggle it back and forth. A little bit of persistence will persevere. And once you get that in place, there we go. You got Carnage with both very sharp looking fingers and an equally dangerous looking blade on the other arm. Now let's get a closer look at Carnage himself. Now, consistently, one thing I'm loving about this figure is the fact that they're using the translucent red plastic. It's everywhere on the figure of various different shades. As you'll see as I spin this around, not all of it is just the bare basic red plastic. Every little nook and cranny seems to have been painted in there with a dark wash of black. It really helps to bring the details out, especially when it comes to the fibers of the muscle in his arms. Boy, that over looks really super cool. And of course the head sculpt, which I know we've already spent a little bit of time already talking about. Just a sinister looking Carnage from all the sides. And he does have, of course, that spiral logo there on the top of his forehead. Like his eyes is raised actually from the top of his forehead. Just such a great looking head sculpt. Now again, the idea is that because these are egg heads, they're going to be a little bit bigger. It's going to add a little bit more weight to the figure. And again, mentioned already, I noticed this one leg is a little on the loose side. Now it's only really attached by the ball joint. I'm sure I could probably even add a little bit of floor polish or something in there to just bulk up the joint a little bit to make it a little bit tighter. But I really like the way that Carnage turned out here. He's got the symbiote symbol, or at least the Spider-Man symbol there on the front of his chest, painted nicely over top of that translucent red. And again, we just spin this around one last time so you can see it from the back. There are, yeah, a few little notable gaps here. They had to put the gaps there in order to accommodate the articulation that we'll look at in a second for the figure. But yeah, when you're looking at like the lower half of his body, it's really only just this part that's attaching to his lower waist. You can kind of see it on the inside there. It does make him a little hollow. I don't think it bothers me as much because it's specifically Carnage, like a really lanky character to start off with. If it was like a bigger character like Venom, I think maybe the gaps would bother me a little bit more. But it actually does work pretty good here for Carnage. Talking now about his articulation, his head is on a ball joint. Short of the fact I do have these extra little parts on the back, the head would normally have been able to rotate all the way around. Let's see if we can actually do it this time. Just there we go. The head does look up just a little bit, looks down. And you can also rock it back and forth as well. The mouth does also have mouth articulation, jaw articulation, you can see. So it does open and close that way. And again, I kind of like it to have it without the tongue. If you wanted to add the tongue easily, just remove the jaw and attach it to that ball peg right there. Now for his upper torso is on a ball joint. You can move it up and down, rock it back and forth. Can also rotate it too. And the figure also has a secondary ball joint, it seems, at the base there as well. Although it's a little harder to gain access to it. Sometimes while you are rotating the figure like this, it is prone to popping off the ball joint, but it is pretty easy to pop back into place, as you can see right there. The legs split out. You can go forward and back on the legs. A little loose, like I said, a little loose on the ball joints, but nothing certainly that a little bit of floor polish or again, making use of the display stand will help to keep the figure from falling over. It does have a swivel on the top of his thigh. The figure has a double hinge on the knee. He also has articulation in the feet, back and forth, ankle pivot, and toe articulation as well. I know we did overlook his arms. Let's go back and fix that right now. The arms do rotate all the way around. Again, you're going to be running up against the back here, so just take my word for it. They do rotate all the way around. He does also have a crunch in his shoulder. It just adds a little bit of additional mileage when it comes to moving the arms forward, and further back. Like I said, the bicep swivel, the figure does have a double hinge on the elbow, and then whatever hands you decide to display Carnage with, those do rotate on their own independent ball peg. Such a great looking figure. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Egg Attack action figure line to start off with, and then taking the things that I liked about the line and then incorporating a character like Absolute Carnage. It's an absolutely awesome looking collectible. He's a little notably looser when it comes to the tops of his thighs, but I think that's something I could easily fix. Just pop the legs off, find something to bulk up that joint a little bit more. So when I put the legs back on, it's going to be a little bit more tighter. Keeping in mind as well, like his head sculpt's going to add some additional weight to it. Going to cause the figure not stabilizing issues with him standing, but certainly the top of his head being bigger than most, it is going to cause the figure to be a little more top heavy. Factoring in the fact that the figure also has light-up options, both in the torso and in the head sculpt, factoring as well that he has as many accessories as he does, I think if you're a big fan of Carnage, this is a figure that you absolutely can't pass. Not that really Carnage needed the help anyways, but you got to think that there may have been some recent spike in the character's popularity, being the fact he did appear in Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, that new fans of this character may be going out to find Carnage merchandise, figures, and collectibles. And while you are in the market of getting figures, maybe don't overlook the stuff that Beast Kingdom have been doing with their Egg Attack action line. I've been a big fan of this line for years now, having looked at several of them here on this channel, and their calling card is the fact that they always have oversized head, slightly smaller proportioned bodies, and a ton of accessories that come included with it, with Absolute Carnage being no exception. The fact that the figure has, going through the list here, swappable eyes, swappable parts that can go onto his torso, not to mention he has a light-up torso, light-up head, and interchangeable parts that can go on his hand. If you are, again, a big fan of Carnage, and like specifically Absolute Carnage, then I think absolutely you should be going out of your way to pick up this one and adding it to your collection. A big thank you, though, to the folks over at Beast Kingdom that provided this sample of the new EAA-143SP, the Marvel Comics Absolute Carnage. What a great looking figure. Hey now, if you guys are new to this channel, you just stumbled in outside, it's a really windy day, by the way. If you just stumbled in and found this channel maybe by this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you turn on the bell notification. Make sure you're coming back, because yes, we will be looking at more Beast Kingdom reviews coming your way in the not so distant future. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.